been described as a mystic, a saint, a sage, a seer, a thinker, a philosopher, an iconoclast, an ambassador of disbelief, a godman, a maverick. Some have even called him a fraud. Many people have met him. Millions have read of him, about him. His name is U.G. Krishnamurti, and right now, as you can see, he is with us in our studio.
May I begin with one contradiction of the way you have described me? You seem to have exhausted all the words that one can find in the thesaurus of English words and phrases. You have omitted two things to describe me, and that is how I would describe myself. I am just a regular guy, just an ordinary man.
Well, a regular guy, an ordinary man, that's something that we'll find out at the end of this conversation and make our own judgments about it. So may I begin with a personal question about yourself, your education and your childhood?
Very rarely I go into that subject of my story, because I have discovered that every event in our life is an independent event, and we are interested in linking up all those events and create a story. And what I have come into is something which has destroyed the chance of linking up all these events, putting them together and create a story of my life. There is another thing I want to emphasize, and that is, I have no way of knowing what is here. I use the first person singular pronoun I during the conversation to differentiate and use you instead of I. That's all that is there. There is no I, there is no center, there is no self, there is nothing there, no entity and no mind. So I have the great difficulty of looking back and tell you something about my life and the life story. And that every time I find myself in such a situation like this, they always ask me the question, tell us something about your past. My difficulty is that where I am and what I was are two different things. There is no way I can link them up and tell you that was the story of my life before whatever happened to me happened. But anyway, to answer your question, I must tell you that I am sort of actually a dropout. A dropout. I did my master's in philosophy and studied psychology as a subsidiary or whatever they call it. And just before the examination, I decided I have been a damn fool studying all these things. I don't see any mind. What the hell have I been doing? And secondly, at that time, I inherited a lot of money from my grandparents. I said to myself, I'm going to go and challenge my professor of psychology in the University of Madras and ask him this question. Is there any such thing as mind? So I went up to him and asked him the question, is there a mind, and what the hell have I been doing these 3 years studying what you call psychology, the study of mental life? I don't see any mind here. I have learned precious little from either secular or spiritual teachers in my life, but only this man impressed me very much because he gave me a very practical answer to my very persistent and insistent question, is there any mind there? He said, do you want your degree? If you want, write everything that you have memorized from the books, you will get a degree. If you don't want, it's too bad. You have completed your course, please write something and you will get a degree. And then I told him, I have come into a lot of wealth. I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth. My income is 4 times that of your income. I don't see any reason, any point in continuing my studies. And I walked out.
Mr. Krishnamurti,
and since then I have been a dropout in every area of life, in every sphere of human activity.
Well, I'm not quite sure whether we'll take that at its face value. But Mr. Krishnamurti was actively involved with the Theosophical Society of India in his youth. Perhaps he'd care to tell us about that?
Sure. You see, the Theosophy and the Theosophical Society played a very important part in my formative years, whatever that word formative years means. I was born into a Theosophical family. My grandfather knew Blavatsky and all called the founders of the Theosophical Society, and he knew all the second generation and third generation leaders of the Theosophical Society. And so naturally, I came into contact with them, and they visited my home where I grew up, and I got involved with that. And apart from that, I found that my home was a strange amalgam of both the traditional and also the Theosophical slant put on the traditional thing. And that created a very strange feeling in me. And one of the objects of the Theosophical Society is to create a universal brotherhood, the distinction of caste, creed, color, and sex. That's the first object of the Theosophical Society. But when my grandparents and I visited the Theosophical Society, I found that the Brahmins had a separate section where the non-Brahmins were not allowed to eat. And that hit me so strong. What is it that's going on here? Here you say to create a universal brotherhood without distinction of caste, creed, and color. And here is a man who has been so closely associated with the Theosophical Society, not only has his lunches and dinners in a private section solely for Brahmins, and he also dragged me to join him there. And that set me thinking, what is this? There is something funny. And also I grew up in an atmosphere where I was surrounded by sages, saints, and saviors of mankind. I lived with masterminds. I lived with murderers, thieves, con men, name it. And yet that created a tremendous impact on me. And I very strongly felt there is something wrong in the whole business. I did not at that time use the word dichotomy. At the same time, I did not call them hypocrites. I told myself, after all, they are what they are, and they don't know what they are doing. So why is there this dichotomy? What they believe and what they do. What they preach and how they live. So this created a tremendous interest in me to find out by myself what is wrong here. Something is wrong with these people, and their teachings are false. If the teachings are false, the teachers also must be false. And the teachers that are there around me, claimants to whatever you want to call it, enlightenment, sagehood, saintliness, and all that kind of a thing, it doesn't operate in their lives. They are not even human. The inhuman quality was all that I could see in them, but I never called them hypocrites. And that's put me on this search to find out for myself and by myself, what is this all about? You know? And so I then asked myself, what is it that I want? What is it that I am thinking? I don't seem to have any thoughts of my own, and I don't seem to be interested in what they are insisting that I should do. These are not my wants, and I am, for some reason or the other, forced, brainwashed to believe that's what I should want. So it never occurred to me at that time, is there any want which I can call my own? And the only want, I keep repeating this all the time to emphasize and overemphasize, that is there any want which I really want other than what they wanted me to want? Yes, I wanted to be free from all the wants that they wanted me to want, and I did not know how to go about, and it never occurred to me this also is a want. Even this want, that I should not want what others wanted me to want, also a want. I did not know how to go about and resolve this problem for myself.
There's one question that we particularly want to ask Mr. Krishnamurti, which is about why he decided to go public. In the early years of his life, he was, we are told, a very private person. And then all of a sudden he decided to go out into the world, meet people, and talk about what he believed in. How and why did this transformation take place?
I will give you a straight answer. Something happened to me during the course of my life. As I said, nobody helped me. I had no way of finding out for myself the answer for my basic question, is there any enlightenment at all? Is there any God realization? Is there any self-realization? I did everything that one was asked to do, practiced everything that they wanted me to practice. And then I confronted them with this problem that I am not getting anywhere. The only answer I got them from was, you have to do more and more. So I was not ready to do more and more. So I rejected everything that they asked me to do and found myself in a sort of a quandary. I had no way of getting out of this. And so somewhere along the line, one day, I don't want to go into the details, something hit me so hard like the shaft of a lightning and pushed everything, flushed everything that everybody thought, felt and experienced before me. What I was left with, I did not know. I can say that some event in my life, like any other event in my life, occurred in my 49th year. That's only for purposes of chronological understanding of the events in life. But that, as I see, cannot be of any significance in my life, because I have no way of knowing what happened to me, whether anything happened to me, and I have no way of finding out what is it that I am left with. But suddenly I found out with great certainty that the instrument I was using to understand whatever I wanted to understand was not the instrument, and there was no other instrument. So that hit me so hard that there is nothing to understand. It was not a logically ascertained premise, but that hit me so hard that I found myself in a situation where I discovered that there was nothing to be free from, nothing there to be changed, nothing there to be transformed. What I left with was only the physical organism with an extraordinary intelligence of its own, which was not interested in learning anything or knowing anything from what culture was trying to impose on this living organism. So I saw no mystical content to whatever happened to me, no religious content to whatever happened to me. So when people started coming to see me, I tried to put across in my own way whatever happened to me. And naturally, all those who came to see me were religious buffs of all shapes, sizes and colors. And they were all spiritual aspirants, despite the fact that I asserted over and over again that whatever they are interested in is really the thing that they are not going to get. The conmen, the thieves, the murderers have as much a chance, if not a better chance, than all these spiritual aspirants put together. That statement of mine was so revolting to them, many of them decided to ignore me. But that doesn't matter. As I said, thousands of people have crossed the portals of my residences here in India, United States, Switzerland and lately. Let me complete it. So then I decided that there is no way they can understand what I am trying to put across. So that's all that they can do, to interpret and translate whatever I am saying. So why not I describe this to some entertainers there in the United States, the talk shows or whatever they call. They were not really interested in what I was trying to say. They were just interested in trying to put across to the audiences out in the open. So this thought that I should express this in clear, unmistakable language, that there is no way they can understand what I am trying to say, and the emphasis that there is no religious content, there is no mystical content in whatever I have come into. So then I decided to try this. since then I have been on television there in the United States and Australia, and this is the fourth time I am on Doordarshan.
We described you a little while ago, and you have been described as so many things, as a sage, a seer, a mystic, a philosopher, a thinker, an ambassador of disbelief, etc., etc. Which one is the real you? Who are you? When you look into the mirror, who looks back at you?
I don't recognize what I am looking at. If somebody asks, I never ask myself, who is it that is there in the mirror? And you will be surprised at how many photos I have in my collection there, because every time they take a photo, they send it to me. And as a rule, I reject all the photos with a smile, because I never smile at myself in a mirror. I don't arrange any particular angle to look different from what I actually am. And so even when I am shading, the eyes are focused on the movement of the razor, but never do I see the whole picture in the mirror.
One last question, Mr. Krishnamurti. In 100, 200, 500 years from now, how would you like to be remembered?
I wish people would forget all about me. I tell very often, when the time comes for them to burn this body, I don't know when I will die, and I'm not interested, you should burn all the memories you have of me along with this body. That would be the greatest service that you could do to your friend.
And if at the end of this conversation you're as baffled as I am about who U.G. Krishnamurti really is, well, that's the way it was meant to be. Thank you very much, Mr. Krishnamurti, for being with us in our studios. We've enjoyed having you here.